So I got a wee shock a few weeks back when I saw that US Vice President and notorious sofa romancer JD Vance...
He hasn't actually denied it. So we called his campaign office to ask him if he the couch, and they hung up on us, which isn't a no.
Decided that he wanted to jump into Scottish politics.
Scotland! 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 Freedom!
This worse JD claimed that in Scotland, we're all getting arrested for thought crime. A new Orwellian cultural revolution is underway in Scotland. Good Christians are being stopped from praying in their own homes.
Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime.
This was jumped upon by several right-wing Scottish pundits to claim that Christians in Scotland are now an oppressed minority. Now, I was back in Edinburgh the other week, and, admittedly I did roam the streets with my band of woke queer communists demanding that Christians declare Jesus was gay or else I'd deport them to England. But aside from that, I couldn't figure out what the hell these people were talking about. What anti-Christian thought crime laws were being drafted in Scotland, a country where schools are essentially de facto affiliated with the Church of Scotland, where local authority education boards are still required to have Protestant, Catholic and other representatives sitting on them whereby they can influence education policy, a country where bishops of the Church of England still exert legislative authority in the House of Lords.
I, Michael, Lord Bishop of Lichfield, do swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles. Now,
I did do research into these local authority education appointees a while back, and it is impossible in a lot of local authority cases to figure out just who these people are, who they're affiliated with, and what power they exert on these local authority education boards. It's a really obscure process, and it's kind of fucked. But it turns out that what this is all about, what all this anti-Christian thought crime is about, is the expansion of buffer zones around abortion clinics. Last year, both the UK and Scottish Parliaments introduced expanded buffer zones to protect women seeking access to abortions. At the UK level, these zones expanded to 150 metres and in Scotland to 200 metres, and they were introduced to combat the increasing amount of hostility and protest surrounding abortion centres, which threatens those women who are seeking to access this vital form of healthcare.
Protesters outside Glasgow's Sandyford Sexual Health Clinic.
Scottish Government, this is what you're allowing right outside of healthcare centres.
The pro-choice campaigners who confronted these activists and posted these videos said they were told by staff inside patients were in distress.
JD Vance, in his speech, referred to a letter supposedly criminalising silent prayer within your house and encouraging neighbours to report on this nefarious prayer activity, like the spectre of the cultural revolution coming to get good Christians in their homes. But the reality that this is tenuously based on is that abortion centres exist within neighbourhoods, and sometimes there are houses that exist within the buffer zones. So residents were basically told that they couldn't use their houses to launch intimidating anti-abortion protests. Shouting about, the fingernails of fetuses isn't deemed acceptable just because you're in your garden. And obviously, no one was banned from silently praying in their houses. It was, in short, bollocks. But I think what's interesting about this case is what it says about international connections of the far right between the US and Europe. How did Vice President Superbad hear about this adjustment in Scottish law regarding women's right to access a vital form of healthcare? So I think it's likely that for a number of reasons, including the fascist regulation of gender promoted by transphobia, the religious right in Scotland has been emboldened of late. Our Deputy First Minister of the supposedly progressive SNP is a woman called Kate Forbes. She's a member of the really right-wing evangelical Free Church of Scotland, also known as the Wee Frees. And the Wee Frees believe that the Word of God in the Bible should be absolutely central to every part of life. They are institutionally homophobic and vociferously anti-abortion, with the church's moderator saying in 2015 that society would one day look back with horror on the evil of abortion in the same way that it looks back at the evils of slavery. Kate Forbes herself has stated that she would have voted against gay marriage in 2014, and recently, amid a case where a transphobic nurse in Scotland refused to work with a trans doctor, potentially putting patients at risk, Forbes reiterated a commitment to the provision of women-only spaces on the basis of biological sex. Transphobia supporting the spread of the far right. On a slightly different terrain, Forbes denied a request to expand the terms of the public inquiry into the death of Sheku Bayo at the hands of Police Scotland on the grounds that it would not be in the public's interest.
Well, since the family formally requested an extension to the terms of reference in September, I have consulted with the chair on a number of occasions and also invited representations from core participants. And I have decided today not to extend the terms of reference because I believe the current terms of reference, which were announced almost 5 years ago, are sufficiently broad to allow the chair to write a substantial report with recommendations.
It is unsurprising to me that someone with this collection of right-wing views would obstruct racist policing being held to account in Scotland. While Forbes has committed herself to protecting existing abortion laws in Scotland, this is also potentially misleading. In Scotland, as in the UK, women and pregnant people don't have the right to access abortions. Instead, under the law as it currently exists, the law Forbes wants to maintain, the decision over whether a woman can terminate a pregnancy lies exclusively with doctors. If you wish to terminate your pregnancy, you have to get permission from 2 separate doctors to do so. The right to abortion, therefore, lies not with women, but with doctors. And I say the law here, but abortion law in Scotland and in the UK is really just a patchwork of different laws, some of which have existed since the 17th century. The existence of this patchwork of laws and the lack of a right for women and pregnant people to access abortion means that you can be prosecuted for terminating a pregnancy, for providing an abortion as a healthcare provider, or for assisting someone in having an abortion if doctors haven't signed off. And obviously this has been used to prosecute and make public examples of women who don't follow the rules.
Politicians are calling for a change to the law after a 44-year-old woman was jailed for more than 2 years for having an abortion after the legal limit.
In England particularly, there has been a string of high-profile prosecutions for abortion-related offences, and this patchwork of disciplinary abortion-restricting laws has been characterised as at odds with modern clinical realities and public health, human rights and gender equality obligations. It's for all these reasons that I find it unsurprising that a right-wing reactionary evangelical like Forbes would be able to continue to support the maintenance of abortion laws in Scotland. She's supporting the maintenance of women's lack of a right to abortions. You know, I'm sure she would prefer it if there was even more restrictions, but as a right-wing evangelical, it's a pretty good position to just be like, nah, we're keeping things how they are. Having senior offices filled by such figures complements a growing far-right presence in Scotland. Recently, the far-right Reform Party has been enjoying a polling surge in Scotland alongside an increase in the right-wing independent supporting Alba Party, previously headed by deceased former First Minister Alex Salmond, who was, it's important to remind people, charged of 14 counts of sexual crimes including rape, which somehow he weaseled out of, but thankfully his heart exploded in Macedonia, so swings and roundabouts, I guess. I mean, not incidentally to this, after his death, public memorials were held in Edinburgh's St Giles Cathedral, a good sign of just how misogynistic Scottish society remains. We can spend our time memorialising and celebrating the lives of these horrible, smug bastards who've been accused of horrible sexual offences. People who have spent their time sucking up to Donald Trump and fucking off, and yeah, this is the society that Scotland still is. And while ALPA and Reform are still rising in the polls, fucking Scottish Labour are busy committing to emulating Elon Musk's destructive cringe-fest Doge department. So all around Scottish politics, right-wing reactionary tendencies are present within institutions and growing in public support. This, I think, can't be separated from the recent anti-abortion protests that surrounded the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Glasgow. Anti-abortion scumbags threatened and intimidated women navigating Scotland's absurd abortion process in an attempt to stop them from accessing healthcare. This is partly what motivated the recent buffer laws now under attack by the international far right, as exemplified by JD Vance. And I think what Vance's attacks on Scotland's limited abortion protection laws illustrate is a growing international connectivity between international segments of the far right. Trump, Vance and the Republicans have obviously long placed attacks on women's bodily autonomy as a central part of their far right agenda.
You believe in punishment for abortion, yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
10 cents, 10 years,
I don't
what?
know. That I don't know. That
Why
I don't
not?
know. I don't know.
You take positions and everything else.
I do take positions and everything else. It's a very complicated position.
Controlling women is essential for far-right politics, and now we're seeing some naked expressions of international collaboration to support these kinds of attacks across different states. It would not surprise me at all if the religious right in Scotland has been forging connections with the evangelical right in the Republican Party as part of this nascent international far-right movement. And that's why I think Vance's recent interjection into Scottish politics isn't really all that funny, as absurd as it is. The far-right is increasingly organised across borders, and the left is still scrambling. In Scotland, even broaching Forbes far-right credentials will get some nominally progressive SNP supporters incandescently mad at me. But we have to face the reality here. There's a reason the far-right is growing in confidence in Scotland and across the UK and across the world. It's being institutionally supported, and that's scary. Aside from staying involved with radical social movements, we also, on the left, need to be uncompromising in rejecting Vance's bullshit and the explosion of supposedly anti-woke bullshit that is smearing itself across international politics. Vance doesn't just hate Scotland, he hates you too. Alright, thank you for watching this shorter video than normal. I just saw this JD Vance stuff and I thought, I hate this guy so much and I need to talk about it. And, you know, I guess I'm interested to see what people think of a sort of shorter, more current affairs based kind of video. If it does well, I might do a few more of them. If it does shit, I still might do a few more of them. This is my channel, I do whatever the fuck I want, and you can't stop me by averting your eyes. Sorry, it's been a long week, and it's only Wednesday. Anyway, if you liked it, please subscribe, please share. If you can, sign up to my Patreon, or if you want, you can also give a one-off donation via PayPal or Ko-fi. All the links are in the descriptions. Patrons get access to things like a Discord server for $5 and up, early access to videos, more writing I do, and other bits and bobs. And $10 and up patrons get their names read out in these credits here. Ooh, what a weird... I'm not going to edit that out because this is fucking reality. This is reality right here. Don't turn your eyes away. Anyway, here are the $10 and up patrons. Demo Squid, Dying of Thirst, Soval Hayes, Earl Grey Tea, Bonnie, Katie Marshall, Joshua Moldenhauer, Nina G Public Relations, FD Signifier, Quint Wolf, Kim Crawley, Anita Anisby, Ellis Wren, S, Hey Joe, Cameron Blakemore, Paul, Jacob Quinn Schenker, Mason Colbert, Alex, Tim, Daniel Swing, Unoriginal Name, Rachel Ann, Melanie Estes, Layum, Xander Corvus, Via Westfall, Jack, TB Skyen, Christopher Poff, Margussie, Tom Price, Cade Soiree, Esoteric Fictionalism, Austin Talman, Robin, Rachel Mixon, Duncan Skinner, Niels Abelgard, Tinfoil Pancakes, Kieran Gore, Aga Ghost, Barney Carroll, Joel, Daniel Hughes, Nelly Zacheva, J. Fraser Cartwright, Aaron, Tamash Kispeter, and Paul Singleton. And yeah, there we go. I hope you all enjoyed the video once again, and once again, please like and subscribe and share. And with that, I will say bye, love you.